Otherwise we have time to go through. So the Ice Age is a difficulty bomb. So the idea is to make it extremely difficult. And the idea is when you do that, then people have no choice but to move to the proof of stake. So they've been delaying it because it's taking time to create ETH 2.0, which is basically a completely new blockchain. And just this time, they forgot to add in that delay update. Second thing to highlight is a plus token scam. There's a link for this which you can go through later. It's very interesting. It's an analysis. I just like to highlight it because plus token has been reported to have scammed a total of more than $3 billion US, and I've actually seen them in Malaysia. Like literally have seen in a shopping mall an uncle with a booth and telling me there's this cool blockchain thing that's going on and you should buy this plus token. So it's massive. It's in the whole world. And the analysis, a very short description, is they cover how they sort of mix the transactions of plus token. So they go through multiple brokers, multiple exchanges, and it's been a heck of a time for people to follow through on how those funds have been moved over time. And it's such a big amount that reportedly has affected Bitcoin and therefore the whole cryptocurrency market's prices, because the scammers have been selling off their gains. Third one, Dr. Mahathir actually last month called for a cryptocurrency for the Muslim world. There was an event with the heads of Turkey and Iran, and it was actually discussed that at Iran they have been working on a sort of a cryptocurrency for the country, and so Dr. Mahathir has called for this again, which in his previous prime ministership he actually called for a separate currency that's not backed by the US dollar. So cool thing that crypto has been mentioned. Fourth one is a Solidity and Viper cheat sheet. So if there's any smart contract devs here, this cheat sheet kind of helps you kind of move between the two languages, so you kind of know what's done in Solidity, how it's done in Viper. Again, I'll share these links later in the Telegram group. And lastly, for those who are interested in the legal side of things, there's actually Lex Note. His full name is Gabriel something. He's actually a full-time lawyer and who's been into the crypto space. And he's written a first article out of a series that he wants to do on securities laws and how that applies for tokenized networks. It's a very long article. I think it's better if you guys just read it, because I'm probably gonna screw up the description. But interestingly, for those of you who's followed, it's in my mind it's following on what was previously discussed earlier last year by Vlad Zamfir, who is a leading dev in Ethereum, and he was calling for going against Szabo's law. Nick Szabo is one of the earliest devs in the whole Bitcoin space, and the idea is about how between dry code and wet code, how much human intervention should there be when it comes to blockchains. How immutable can a blockchain be allowed to be? So that's pretty much it on the monthly roundup. I'll share the links for these on the Telegram group later. If you're not in Telegram group, let me know and I'll send you the invite link. We don't want to publicize it because then there'll be some random Telegram scammers that join. And so next is Pisuth from Bangkok. He will give a quick introduction into the Thailand space for blockchain. So everybody please welcome. Sorry.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Pisuth. I'm going to introduce the blockchain ecosystem in Thailand, how many projects we have, and what kind of cryptocurrency regulation the status right now. In just 6 slides. Not take so long time, but who am I? I am the software engineer from Berlin, the blockchain company based in Singapore. But yeah, I work remotely time and try to traveling around Asia and come to Malaysia, and have the opportunity to talk about the blockchain ecosystem in Thailand. And I've been in this space for around 3 years and been in a many hackathon because when I switched to the blockchain space, more like I don't know how to learn that because what I have learned so far from the YouTube, from the blog, from the internet are correct or not correct, and I decide to attend the hackathon. And I've been in a many hackathon around Asia. If you went to the hackathon, you might familiar with my face. To find someone who can correct me how smart content that I make is correct or not correct. And after I went to the hackathon, then I tried to contribute my knowledge back to the community by just volunteer to many blockchain in Ethereum, Bangkok meetups, and yours meetup, and yeah, TaiPi, the Python meetup in Thailand. They are not in blockchain, but yeah, they are the most popular meetup group in Thailand for TaiPi. For now, I am running my own meetup groups named DeFi Bangkok. If you have time or you're interested on DeFi, please subscribe that. And once you go to Bangkok, just meet me on that meetup. Thank you. So let's start with a short summarize over the ecosystems. Okay, we do have around no more than 30 blockchain startup company in Thailand, and around 3 of them are in the top 20 cryptocurrencies ordered by a trading volume that you may uh, heard about the name Omiseko, Blue Network, and Zcoin. I think Zcoin, they have a couple of them based in here, so but yeah, many of developers are based in Bangkok. And we do have a lot of the blockchain media who try to promote the blockchain project across various of the media channels. We once have the Asian blockchain reviews, but they shut down their business in Thailand about 4 months ago and moved to Kuala Lumpur. So one thing that we seem different from the other country is that cryptocurrency is already regulated by the government, by the SEC, and many of the state enterprise like the bank, national bank, central bank, they evaluate a couple of blockchain projects and they're planning to launch the national cryptocurrency based on Cordas in the next couple of years. But they're going to first using by bank rather than allow the consumer to use that cryptocurrencies. And for the communities, back in around 2018, we have a lot of meetup coming up every month, around more than 4 meetups per month. But for now, we have just 1 or 2 month once. So bad, I don't know why. And around 25% are tech focus, mean when you come, you see most of them are developers. And for the East Bangkok specifically, it started in 2018 by the guy named David Knott from Umiseko. And on the right hand side is the picture that took from the first Ethereum Bangkok meetup back in 2018. And on that time, Vitalik also come, and maybe you can see him. Introduce some of the popular project in Thailand. We have old exchange, but yeah, the largest one was shut down the business around 4 months ago or so, and it was a rumor that the founder they messing up with the regulator, and yeah, later they need to shut down the business, and we do. For now, we do have the exchange named Meetup, Stang, and the founder of Stang is the same lead developer of Zcoin. We do have Huobi. They've been in Thailand for 1 year, but not operate yet. They announced to operate next 3 months. And we do have a lot of protocol projects like C-Coin, they do privacy coin, and we do have Loom Network. Loom Network, they make side chains based on plasma. And we do have that do the nearly exact same thing to the Loom Network in general, but yeah, they have something different. You need to take a look on that white paper, how different they are. But Loom Network specifically, they want to become a sidechain for the game applications, while the Omisego, they focus on the financial applications. And on the right end, we do have the educational project named Thai Chain. I have one slide for Thai Chain specifically because they make use of the Ethereum blockchain in order to help educate the blockchain into the Thai universities. And on the bottom left, we do have the Oracle project named Band Protocols. They also launched a IEO in Binance not so long ago, but they do the same thing like Chainlink if you heard the name of them. And for the oracles, what does the oracle? Oracles is the data provider for the smart contract because if you make the application and you need some third-party data, most of the time you need to call the data from the third party. Like you want to know the time, you need to call the API to third party to get the time. But on the smart contract, the oracle will provide the data to the smart contract directly. And we do have a one DAG aggregators. It's not a DAG, DAG is the digital exchange, but the DAG aggregator is more like the project that try to combine the many DAGs at the best rate to use. Like if you want to buy a Bitcoin with the USDT and on the DAX, you need to look into each particular DAX, for the DAX aggregator. They will find the best rate for you. And we do have a lot of crypto communities, Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, EOS, BOS is another. BOS is sidechain of the EOS, and Dash, and NEEM, Ledgers, and yeah, this is the large one. Yeah, the largest one, but they are scam project.
Point. Which one?
Sidechain is actually the non-profit organizations. They aim to promote the blockchain's adoptions by using the Ethereum proof of authority consensus and or masternode or supernode are hosted by the local universities, around 4 universities, and a couple blockchain startup, and it was launched around early 2019. All right, I think nearly last slide. Because the cryptocurrency already regulated in Thailand, and the funny thing is that our SEC grouped the cryptocurrencies into the 5 categories by risk factors.
Who
No
gave
one knows the risk factors.
who gave this scoring?
Securities Commission?
Securities Commission of Thailand?
Yes.
Oh wow.
The category 1 list 20% Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ripples. But if you want to invest on the XMAX, have at least 50%. Need to learn about that. And whatever that are list on the paper are 100%.
I like it. 70% doesn't exist yet. What?
No projects.
Project.
The last.
Thanks.
Any questions for officers? We got like a couple minutes on the Thailand streets.
Are the banks in Ripple, banks in Thailand working in Ripple now?
Yeah, they're working in Ripples.
Yeah.
But it's quite hard to get information. Even though I know many of them more like they keep it private. Yeah, but they claim that they are using Ripple. They claim that they're using Cordas, but yeah, if you are asking about the architectures, you cannot get that. Yeah, but yeah, that what I like the published blockchain space, because most of the projects are open source, right? And yeah, you can know whatever they're doing, but on the private blockchain side, more like it or like the black box, and we do not know that is this a blockchain or not, or it's just the gimmick from you. That's just my opinion. Sorry.
Can you elaborate a bit more on Thai chain? Like, what's the master nodes? What do they do?
What they do, the Thai chain. I know the founders. The founder, they believe in Ethereum. They believe in Ethereum. They just want to promote the blockchain to uh, to the Thai people, but they find out that uh, the good, the best way to do educate people from uh, the universities, because they can contact the university professors and ask them to like present the Ethereum. And yeah, because they was inviting me to like become like a health conduct the workshop and train the student how to make a smart contract with the Ethereum on top of the Thai chain.
It's like a testnet chain.
It like a testnet chain, but it run by the universities, by the couple of startups. Because even the testnet right now, it's quite hard to get the ether, right? We need to find someone to give us ethers, but with Thai chain, you can get whatever ether you want. Just ask your teacher, that is.
So it's like their own testnet, huh?
Yeah, they have.
There you go.
It's like a testnet. Yeah, it's a testnet.
So you can
University students.
Question, last question is how easy it is to convert between fiat and crypto in Thailand?
Yeah, quite easy. Yeah, quite easy. I'm not sure. Do you have like an exchange in Malaysia?
That's a long story.
We have one fully licensed one.
We have one fully licensed one
Yeah.
right now.
We have around 3 or 4, I think. So for fiat and crypto, quite easy.
Cool. Right. Please give Pisut a round of applause. Alright, so thanks Pisut. So the next section is where we need more audience participation. I hope you guys have managed to read the articles while I was speaking and Pisut was speaking in front. So this is the first time we're trying this format, so please pardon us if there's any sort of gaps in how it's done. So I am going to show this Google Doc, and I will share this link to this Google Doc to the Telegram group later, right after this. And you guys can go in there and add any of the notes that you have discussed on into here. So I put roughly 5 topics to discuss on, but it doesn't have to be 5 topics, you can add more. Since there are quite a few number of people, I'd like to suggest we split into 2 different groups. So maybe one group can kind of like sit on this table and another group on this side. And so we'll split it based on, so we'll discuss number 1 as a big group first, so everybody knows what it is. And then we'll do 2 groups of like 2 and 4 go on this table, and points 3 and 5 sit on this table. So if you want to like discuss more on 2 and 4, you join that group. And if you want to discuss more on 3 and 5, you come over here. So for those of you who were at DevCon, there's a similar kind of like format that they did with workshops where you sit together, split into groups, and you put notes in a sort of decentralized note-taking document. And then at the very end, I will call about say 9-10. We come back together and we get like a rep from each group to explain what you guys have discussed. And then we can all come back together and discuss next steps. If people want to know more, how they can do it, where they can go, and how they can contribute. So first up is, what is self-sovereign identity? So Can I get anyone to volunteer their definition of that, and give also a quick intro of like your name and where you're coming from, like what industry you're coming from? Anyone?
Okay lah.
Go on, Jason.
Hi, my name is Jason. Okay, I manage the community corporate fund in Asia. I will start off by saying that I don't know what self-sovereign identity is. I did read the article, right? Okay, but basically it's providing a digital identity, okay, that actually can work, that's functional, that is interoperable, but I don't know how it works because when I read the article, right, it basically says that currently the article talks about, you know, the different kinds of phases, different kinds of identities that we're used to. First, there's like a centralized authority that basically says that I'm Jason Chew because my IC there says, you know, Jason Chew or whatever, right? And then when I go to different country, okay, then I'm also Jason Chew, right? Because it's all centrally, the identification is all done centrally, and they communicate, right? Then we have passports also as an identity. Then after that, I think nowadays very common is social media. Okay, I can identify myself, okay, as Jason Chew because my Facebook profile is Jason Chew, and it follows me everywhere I go in the world. Okay, and when I want to apply for, say for example, this website, I want to start an account on this website, one button click, okay, I'm linked immediately, okay, to my identity. This is my account, right? But then the article went on to say self-sovereign identity, the identity is entirely up to me. I control it. Then it's like, if I control it, then I can do whatever I want with it, right? If I can do whatever I want with it, then why should this person trust what I say, who I say I am, when I go to another place? So I don't understand what self-sovereign identity actually is. So somebody explain it to me.
Yeah. Anybody want to sort of give a counterpoint to Jason?
My understanding of self-sovereign identity is
Okay, quick one. Name, background.
Hi,
This
Ray.
way.
Old fart in crypto like him.
Yeah, what's your understanding, bro?
So my understanding is self-sovereign identity is identity created by yourself, maintained by yourself. Very much like creating a private public key pair in Bitcoin, for example, or any other crypto for that matter. So basically, you maintain your own identity, you control it, you can destroy it, and you can create another one. Basically, decentralizing and taking away the power and the authority figure of creating identities. That is my understanding.
Anybody else? No? I'll give my take on it lah. From my angle, it may be easier to like look at it as a kind of like a real world scenario where, let's say, you have an identity, and anybody who's been in the crypto Telegram space, you have seen this lah. Someone can literally create a fake account and call it your name with your face, and even in Facebook and Instagram with the exact same posts that you've made, and then start DMing your friends, asking them for money or trying to scam them. So that in the digital world, it's very difficult for you to be able to control your identity the way it's done now. There's no like government that you can go to and kind of like they will say that, you know, this is Jason and not this other person that's trying to imitate. And in the internet, it's not like you can meet someone in person and show them that you're really Jason. Someone can try and imitate you with your pictures and all your background, and there's no way for me to know, if I don't know you personally, whether that's really you or not. That's one sort of like basic issue that can happen with the internet as it's done now lah. And as the internet grows and there's more transactions, more things that are done on the internet, that risk of people having their identities stolen from them gets larger and larger. And that's the idea of having a self-sovereign identity, is where you don't need a website to define who you are, who Jason Chew is. You don't need Facebook to say this is Jason Chew. You can have that basically using cryptographic public-private key technology. You can say that, you know, I have the private key to this identity, so I can prove that this that I am the real person, the real individual that is represented by that online identity. So that's my take on it, and it kind of goes into why we should care as well.
Okay, so I understand that the problem that is posed. Okay, the problem, okay, why we are looking into self-sovereign identity is because we want to be able to solve, identity fraud, right? Okay, this topic is kind of like the holy grail, isn't it?
One of.
Kind of like the holy grail of identity, right? And basically, I understand that bit. How do you actually, create that? What you're saying is self-sovereign identity is to find a way to do the validation in a decentralized way, so that we can trust whatever that we say we are. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, that's my understanding at least. So I guess we can go a bit into it. It doesn't necessarily have to be a blockchain kind of solution. Nobody is can say that blockchain is the answer for everything. And you guys can Google into this as well while we discuss. There's an interesting product called keybase.io, if you guys are familiar. And I don't know if that counts as self-sovereign identity, but it's where because you have your identity on multiple platforms like Facebook, Twitter, GitHub, all these platforms. And when you set up a keybase.io account, it uses PGP technology, which Dev can probably explain way better than I can. But the idea is you self-attest that because you have control over these different platforms, then your Keybase identity kind of like relies on the owner of all these platforms. So the chances of you being a fake person is much lower, because if somebody's trying to pretend to be you and create a keybase.io account, they have to be able to kind of like hack into your accounts on all these various platforms. Someone who might know Keybase better can explain this probably even better than I can. I do understand there is some sort of social element as well, that you can get a friend or someone else to also help attest as to your identity. So that it's cool. I don't know if that counts as SSI, but it's a sort of a next level to identity, and I don't believe there's any blockchain element involved with that product.
Just want to gauge the room, right? How many of us here, okay, actually have some knowledge in SSI before this event? Okay, right. So, can we take a vote? This format worked, okay, in DEF CON, because that when people come for a topic, they choose the topic, they are the topic. That's why they have a lot to discuss. Can we take a vote? Okay, how many of you prefer that we basically discuss all 5 things together?
Yeah. Better.
Yeah.
Cool.
Alright. Okay.
Alright.
Alright. So, in terms of like definition, would anybody else like to chip in? Okay, what you think about what self-sovereign identity would mean to you, or got any ideas? Yeah, Johnson.
I'm Johnson from Korea. So there's one thing I would like to share about self-sovereign identity was that because recently I was discussing with a few people about DeFi space. So one of the things that people want to do is that you want to do under collateralized loan. Means that when you want to loan something, you don't have anything to collateralize, like you don't have Ethereum, you don't have Bitcoin. You just want to loan. So one way is to use your identity to get a loan. Yeah. But okay, so let me elaborate a bit more. So imagine that in future 10 years, you tokenize some of your identity in the real world that the government already approved, they already tokenize that. You can tokenize your track record of your. It's just like going for bank loan.
Right.
And then it's like P2P lending kind of concepts.
Right. But you already have value.
Some kind of using your identity to borrow money, which is very interesting because in the past, for us to get loan in the cryptocurrency space is to collateralize your Ethereum, your DAI, all those stuff that you own.
So if I owe Ray money and I don't pay back, which means that he can take my identity.
No, your identity will be bad. Some kind of credit score.
It's like credit scoring.
Credit scoring. One very good example that is happening right now is what happened in China. Let's say because everyone uses like WeChat in China. Let's say I want to borrow a power bank. Normally you need to put like a few dollars just for like deposit. But if you use your past identity from WeChat that already certified that you are a good user, so you don't need to pay deposit. It's a win-win situation for both sides. Because a power bank renter don't need to scare that the power bank gonna be lost because you have a very good track record. Something like that. But it's very hard to achieve in blockchain in the sense that anyone can just spawn a new anonymous identity if they want.
Yeah.
It will be one thing very challenging in this space.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing they want to solve. I think when you say self-servant identity, right, it has to be unique. If it's not unique, then it doesn't serve any purpose. Anybody can create it, then anybody can use it. So I think what they want to create is quite unique. Like it can be related to you only, or nobody can else use it. So that's my take on it.
I think it's also important that we must agree. There must be some kind of like agreement or social acceptance that that we accept this. Whereas when people try to go and create these solutions, right, then they come to argument, and I'm quite curious how we're going to basically tackle that. Okay, it's like I have created this identity solution. Okay, your identity solution tak boleh pakai, use my identity solution.
Yeah, that's why you need to prove, right? If you're providing any solution, you need to prove to the community, to everybody, okay, this is workable. You cannot do anything. Like all the systems you do, right? Like the credit card or this one, you do your pins, which is stored somewhere internally, which you cannot hack actually. So that's why the main focus point is where you cannot replicate or cannot duplicate that thing. There will be more.
So basically, I think all these things that I mentioned has already been solved. When you talk about agreement, there's essentially consensus protocol. So basically, when you come to a consensus, anyone who joins the network has to follow that protocol. If you try to change the protocol, you're just kicked off or not the network, depending on the network, right? So that is called a consensus protocol. When you talk about identity, you don't need a central identity. The whole idea of cryptocurrency and how it started is that you don't need a central authority. You still can have value without needing a central authority to validate your value. Your identity, as far as what we need, is basically to exchange value. And one way is to actually sell your identity or collateralize your identity, like you mentioned. That's also not a new thing. Every time you take a loan, you have a credit score, and that's based on your identity. So depending on who you are, your identity has a certain amount of value.
But like you say, right? Like you say, it can be anonymous, right?
Yes.
So if you have 10 identity, which one I should follow?
It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. But
Doesn't
as
matter.
long as each identity has a value based on the protocol that is associated to it. So if I exchange a certain amount of money to you, you don't need to know who I am. As long as the thing I'm giving to you is agreed to have value by the society, you do not need to have my full identity. You don't need to know my name, you don't need to know my address, you don't need to know if I'm a criminal or not. Unlike using, for example, a credit card, where a system knows my name. Whereas in a decentralized system, you do not need a central authority to store your value or store your identity or validate your identity, and even remove your identity when it's required, when they wish. So decentralizing it takes away the central authority figure in creating, modifying, removing identity. In that way, it's harder for, especially in a democratic society, for a central authority, any central authority, for blacklisting or removing people out of society.
You just mentioned that it doesn't matter if you have two identities.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
So rich people can have like thousands of identities.
I can tell you my name is
How you're
Joe.
gonna fix that problem?
I can tell you my name is Joe now, and 5 minutes later I can tell you my name is Ray, which is true. It doesn't matter as long as
I'm not putting my trust on it.
it doesn't matter.
But if you're
Because if
building
I'm
a
buying
set-
something in the shop,
Let's say you're building an app and you want to have your reviews there. If I have money, I can create 1,000 identities for myself,
that
put
is true.
1,000 reviews.
it doesn't matter because each identity that I have, doesn't matter what my real identity is, as long as that identity is unique, like what you said just now, and there's a certain value associated to that identity.
No, but it's not an identity anymore if
It's not
you can have
identity.
two
Well,
for one person.
Come
I'm
to
trying to understand what Ray is trying to say. So what you're saying is that we can have multiple identities with values attached to it, as long as the value is true.
It has multiple let's put it this way, multiple sub-identities. Okay? So each sub-identity for each domain will have a certain value.
So say for example, I am Jason, but then one day I decided to call myself PewDiePie, for example, right?
Doesn't
And then
matter.
I have like two identities, but they're all linked to me, and the values.
Nobody knows it's linked to you, but nobody necessarily knows it's linked to you unless you tell them.
What you're mentioning has value, but it's not identity. It's credit score.
No,
It's just credit. I'm putting some money. It's like, okay, I have this credit. You can trust on it, but it's not my identity.
technically it's known as identity in the sense that, for example, you can have 1,000 Bitcoin wallets. You can have one Bitcoin wallet. It doesn't matter as long as I receive my payment. It doesn't matter what your name is. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
whether whether you're one identity or 10.
guys.
Okay, yeah.
Can I add on something? I'm Dandy, by the way. On this, right? Because these days, actually, you own more than one identity in social media. Probably you are called like a name. You register by your name, me, Dandy, in Facebook, and then in Twitter, maybe I'm Dandy91, and in another platform, you are basically using different identity and exist in different parts of the world. Yeah. And that is what exactly he said, because the identity is something that you can have access to, that therefore you own the identity, right? It's like back to the material that was sent out. That's one famous quote by one philosopher, that Descartes, that say, I think therefore I am. So it's like I exist because I think that I am. So you exist in Facebook because you have created an account with this username. It doesn't matter, it's a different username in another platform. That's why you exist as you in the Facebook platform. And you have done all these things in the Facebook. And then you do in another platform, selling things and then using another name. And you own that identity as well. So you have access to all this identity, although it's not linked together, but you own it, right? So and the topic today is about self-sovereign identity, and the problem to this that is trying to solve is not about you having so many identities. It is about you being in control of your identity. You are not relying on the government that issue you the IC, for
It's not
example.
about creating one identity and then.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So it's about you having the control of your own identity, and it's not going to be like modified or be like you say, shut down and all that by someone else. So it's like your biometric, your things that is so unique to you, and that defines your identity. And then it definitely is not something that with a private key and then it works. It needs to be like credit system, right? You own the key, yes, to access to these things, but you need someone else to attest that, okay, you have all this credibility in okay, you have borrowed money from this bank, so you have paid your loan, so you have good credibility from the bank that says, okay, Jason, good score in borrowing, it's like borrowing and repaying.
I have.
Yeah, and then in other things like, oh, you travel and then you never like you know, you come back on time, your visa is all valid and stuff like that. So yeah, you are obeying the law. So maybe the ministry of what immigration, give you a attestation that you are good
Can I revalidate what
resident.
you say? Okay, by giving an example. So what you're saying is like, for example, imagine if let's say I have an account with DG and it's based on a self-sovereign as an SSI. Okay, and one of the things which I admittedly I'm a late payment to DG, always late one.
Yeah.
Okay, until they like say that I'm going to shut you down, then I thought okay, pay, right? So that is attached to my SSI. Because now technology, they know Jason is a person that pays late. But because it's an SSI, I have the control to hide because I don't want people to know that I am this. I have the option.
Yep.
That's basically what you're saying, right? SSI. Is that basically what it is? Or if I don't have control and somebody else has control, which means everybody knows that I'm a late payment.
Your identity exists in DG because you have created an account with them, right?
Yeah.
And then how they know you other things about you. So the information are all stored in the different systems.
Right.
They don't know about, probably they don't know about your secrets, they don't know about how you're repaying to the banks and all that. But when you have this, say, SSI being used, being deployed as something in blockchain, and then it's collaborated by all these other
Platforms.
yeah, platforms, institution and all. That's where you can then yeah, they can know Jason, and you can choose to share your information to them if you want to, right? You can choose to share about how good your credibility is in another institution. If you because you are in control of the identity, and then more things can be achieved by that. Yeah, instead of like, okay,
Feel free to try to chip in.
yeah.
No, you could have sang for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay, so from my own understanding, why I think this SSI thing is good is because like currently we all live in the centralized, like our identity is all stored in centralized. Either your phone number, your data where you born, everything is centralized. But I think I have the experience like I give my phone number to maybe just someone else. So I just want my phone number to be with him. But because I would say like why blockchain is important, this thing is because like instead of trusting him, with this system I trust the code. So only he can access the data I want to give him. So currently the problem is when I give this person, when it's centralized, this data, he can actually share this data to other people without my notice.
Yes.
So for example, I give my phone number to this person, and then suddenly I get all kind of advertisement SMS all over. So what I feel about SSI is SSI by using blockchain with SSI, I read the article. So what it says is actually that those companies, they can still get your information when you, for example, when you want to, the example raised in the article is that to verify whether you are 18 and over. So what it gets is not like when you register it, what it gets is not like your birthday, but the blockchain verified that you are actually over 18 already. So they only know that you are over 18 and not your personal details.
Right.
Okay, I want to give example. Example, register and login on web. So for example, we register in Facebook and then Google. So you got two identity already. So that identity is belongs to that company, which is your identity, but you give to others. So SSI means that identity should be inside you. That means you have your own storage. You store your name, your ID, your whatever your background in yourself. You manage yourself. So that means let's say Facebook support SSI. So whenever I try to log in, I just give whatever I want to give. Let's say just my name. That's all. So I don't want to give what is my age. So if I see video, maybe I cannot see a valid video, but then I can verify to Facebook again, then I more than 18, but I cannot give what. So anyway, that means the identity you manage yourself.
Yeah, sure.
So self-sovereign identity is meant to be. Oh, I'm Raki. So this is it's mean to me, like we're human being. So yeah, into this world we come from our parents, and we have a unique DNA code. So we all are unique. So when we have our own identity, then it will be unique. And so when it will be unique identity for me, so I don't need my passport, right? So when I will come from Bangladesh to Malaysia, the immigration will automatically know like it is me. And so my government, my central government, they don't need to I to say verified my identity, because I already verified myself, it's my sovereignty, right? So it will be decentralized and it will be unique. There will be no need for visa, passport, right? Visa, obviously, of course, it has need, but I don't think so. Like if we use it, so we don't need to passport.
Sorry, you can continue with Ray. Just a quick note, guys. So we do have other points that we want to cover, and so we want to make sure that we don't spend too much time on just the what on the first point. So at least we cover the other points as well. Maybe I'd like to highlight for the first point, if we can, go through the principles that was discussed in the top article. The principles, the 10 principles of self-sovereign identity, and if anybody has any comments on those. Otherwise, Ray, you can add on to whatever comment you have, and then we can move on to the second point.
Yeah.
That's okay.
I think I heard you said it's like identity should be for to identify that you're human, right? But did I hear that correctly? I don't know.
Yeah.
You said, yeah, okay. But I think in going forward, there's likely going to be like identity, maybe a different level of identity for machines too. Because eventually you will find that first we are already starting with self-driving cars. You might have a self-driving car that also collects the payments and self-fuels itself as well. It's not too far to see that. But it doesn't just have to be for humans.
Okay, cool. So any comments on the 10 principles that was listed? Like you want to elaborate a bit more? You disagree? You think there's an 11th principle maybe? Anything else? Otherwise, I think I'm gonna.
Can you elaborate what each of these principles are?
Okay. Well, I'm not a lecturer here, so.
For your understanding so far.
Okay, that backfired. But yeah, so my understanding is of existence is that the person or machine, as Ray's example earlier, has to exist. It's not some make believe, image that was created out of 1,000 different pictures amalgamated together and then became an identity. It's actually a real individual, whether a person or a machine. Control means that individual has control over that identity, and access means that again the individual always has access to the identity regardless of where they are. Transparency, that it's clear at least to that person what the identity is. Persistence, that means it continues that sort of what transaction that you've done, whatever activity that you've done, is then continuing on for the next transaction. That there is a consistency in the identity that does each. Portability, that you can port your identity either from, let's say, in this platform to another platform, probably maybe from online to offline as well. Interoperability, similar to the previous one, that you can do it across different platforms. Consent, that the individual has the right to choose what they allow their identity to be used for. My understanding is similar to what Kai said earlier. Minimalization, honestly, I'm not really sure what that means. We can probably check the article again. Protection, meaning that the individual can protect their identity from, hacking or being taken by someone else, stolen.
The existing existence part, I didn't mean that one machine would have one identity. One machine can have multiple identities.
Sure. Yeah.
So, for example, we have all seen an example of Google making a call, an actual verbal call, phone call to make an appointment for the user. So it's not far-fetched to imagine you calling a call center agent in the future, but you're actually speaking to a machine. But it could be one physical machine, it could be multiple agents, right? So you're speaking to a different agent and there's a problem with one, you can make a complaint or whatever. So you can have multiple identities. As long if an AI is smart enough to create its own picture, yeah, it can have its own identity. It's providing some value. And we need to identify which AI we are talking to.
I think the principle of existence is quite straightforward. What it means is that it must exist. It cannot be, an SSI cannot be given to something that doesn't exist. That's basically what it means in terms of the principles of giving an SSI.
So I like the idea, like what philosophers say, right? I think therefore I am. So
Yes.
if you get smart enough to think, you have an identity. Congratulations.
Okay. Cool. So I'm going to move on to the next section, which is why we should care. So I gave an example earlier of people having their identity stolen from them on social media. Does anybody else have any sort of perspective, maybe from your experience, why you think that having complete control over your identity would be important for us now and in the future?
I think Casey picked up a very good point. I like that, which is basically when you give up, your information to someone, all right, that information can be shared, okay, without your control, and can be sold. Which actually brings me to another thing, which is that if SSI does exist, it's going to disrupt, a lot of businesses, because right now the prevailing thought is that data is money. Data is money, but with SSIs, and if everybody can control their own data, then suddenly you collect all these data, now you no longer have access to them, because people have the control to basically say, no, I don't want you to have my data.
You think you can hide your data?
Data is already everywhere.
I don't know, we're all future right now.
Okay.
I mean, in terms of data, it's just identity is just one type of data.
Yes.
So you might be able to protect your identity, but your personal
Metadata.
you might be able to do that, so you're not uniquely identifiable as a human being. But there is enough business opportunities, I believe, to use data based on the different identities that are there.
Behavioral data.
Exactly.
Right, okay.
So it may not be the same way to do business, but it's possible.
X people, have visited this place.
X identities or whatever.
X identities, okay, have done this behavior, that behavior, but it's just that our personal data is not being monetized.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, I'd like to bring up a point, might be a bit controversial. It's on refugees. And as there are more sort of crises that happens between countries, war and whatever, that there'll be more refugees. And these people currently exist without any form of identification. And there are no governments that can even give them an identity, because there's no government that sort of they belong to. And that potentially should be why it's important. Because even in Malaysia, the Rohingya, there is thousands of them around, and without an identity, there are a lot of things that you cannot do. You can't open a bank account. You can't, many others. So that is also one reason to care.
Can I ask, right? Even if we are successful in creating SSIs, right? How can it be useful to the refugees if, let's say, the countries that they visit don't recognize SSIs? It's kind of like when the UN issues the refugee, travel document. Okay, they go to the airport and then they get stopped, and then they say that this is not a passport, you cannot enter the country. That kind of thing.
I think one thing, and this might go also into like the whole decentralization kind of movement, is that if it can be done online and you can do it without the government knowing or having any sort of authority over it, then if I as a business I see you and I can see your identity. I know you're not some fake person. Then I can take your business or employ you without having to go through any sort of like government approved identity process.
Right.
That could be
Centralized movement, got it.
one way that it happens. Anybody else? Thoughts on? Okay, this is a lot shorter than the first point.
Just
Yeah.
thoughts. Yeah. As the AI technology is getting more advanced, plus like in what I was working on, we have HoloLens technology. Not exactly my project, somebody else's. What I'm trying to say is this kind of identity can be used as you extend yourself into this realm where yourself is being represented by some kind of AI and other real technology, HoloLens kind of thing, hologram.
Oh, okay.
Maybe not now, but it's going towards that.
I just want to add,
Yeah.
why should we care? Because our privacy. With this technology, there is a possible way that whenever you give to like some online service or business, you can revoke back what you give. So there is, I can't remember, but there is a way that automatically you can just give the revocation so that they cannot use the information anymore after that. So
Sort of like the GDPR kind of thing. Sorry, someone who might know GDPR better can explain.
in more on technicals.
You can set an expiry date for.
Yeah. Cool. Anything else? Maybe? Okay. Then we go on.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So I read a book called Zuck.
Sorry?
Zuck.
Okay. Like.
ZUCKED. It's written by an early investor from Facebook.
Okay.
So he just talked about why we should care about our own data. I mean, it's not really related to SSI, but it's very interesting that he brought up a point. Because in that book, he stated that even though like all our data is being anonymized when we share with like all those advertisers on Facebook, Instagram, all those social medias, but as what they get so-called like the advertiser, they just need 3 metadata to 95% confirm that you are the one, that even you anonymize it, they still know you are the one. So the 3 data is just your gender, male or female, the date of birth, and then your zip code. Zip code can be easily achieved by your IP address, they can know that. Date of birth, you give consent to Facebook, Instagram about your date of birth because of the birthday, and they give them know whether you are a guy or a girl. And they can kind of pinpoint who are you in the internet, so they can create a shadow profile out from these 3 identities. Very simple. Yeah, I mean, just share with you guys about the privacy part, about why should you care.
Just 3 metadata.
Yeah, just 3 metadata. You expose your anonymity of your profile. So when Facebook sells all this data, it looks very innocent, all this metadata. But when they combine, the point is that not just these 3 things, we share more things than these 3. We share like we like a certain football club or something like Hello Kitty. How many % people like Hello Kitty? I'm not to be like sexism or what, but the fact is that 95% that people that like Hello Kitty page are women. So it's like you kind of sure that this person is a woman just from one thing, because she like Hello Kitty. Yeah, that was what I read in the book. It's very interesting, but the book is very long as it's a very long. It's 10 chapters just cry about why you should ditch Facebook, and 2 chapters just about the solutions. It's very pessimistic book.
The investor make money from Facebook?
I don't know, I find it amusing to read.
Thank you for reading it and sharing it with us.
If you like to read, you can read like 10 chapters of very sad things that you feel like you have no control, and the 2 chapters about how can you solve it.
So what does he say about you solving it?
Solving it is you don't want to be the product. One way is that you try to reduce your digital footprint one way, and then
Same.
I mean it's all those like yeah, I mean
Yeah, if you
it's
don't
very
do
hard,
anything,
but you don't want to be the product. You want to use the platform to your own advantage instead of them showing you that things that like they curated all those content for you, and you being triggered by a very aggressive post about politics,
no, but
something like that. Yeah.
Can I say? Can we say use Steam instead? Does that make a difference?
You still.
Does it make a difference though? Like, wouldn't they be able to still pinpoint you?
It's a public,
Yeah.
it's a public blockchain.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, don't take what I said.
As a side note, I don't know if you guys know that if you're Malaysian now, if you are using any of the e-wallets, if you upgrade your wallet and you scan your identity card, your my card, you get 30 ringgit, right?
Yeah.
You know that, right? For every e-wallet. That is exactly what the government is doing, is capturing your identity.
Yeah.
As we all know, in
130 ringgit, right?
1 MDB. So you can't trust the government, you can't trust any private organization, which is why you can't rely on them to hold your identity, because your identity is something very difficult to change later on. You need to have sovereign right to create, own, and modify your own identity.
Well, this is true.
Yeah. So you can just fast forward as well and think that if you're in China now, they already have such things as social credit scoring. I don't know if you've heard of that. So basically, if they find that you're doing something that the government doesn't like, they lower your score.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if you do something that government likes, they increase your score. So what does that mean? If you have a higher score, you get discounts, you get privileged access to concerts and so on. If they don't like you, they make it difficult for you to travel. You can't fly below a certain level, and so on.
So it's tied to their national identity, or
yes,
how?
the national identity.
If I can create new identity linked to my old, so I
Where they can't even mention, where you don't even have your name in the identity, just as you could create a new social media account, then you have more control over that. And if you don't have to specify details like your birth date and so on, you have more control. So it's just one step. I mean, one step for people to just create a social identity. Doesn't mean you have complete 100% anonymous access, but it's just one step in that direction. Whereas the government is trying to make sure it destroys cash. The moment the government destroys cash and everybody's on e-wallets, just guess what happens when you start to protest against government? You won't feed your family.
Yeah,
true. Just one switch, all your accounts are locked. Right? Forget about Versi 10.0. Right? You won't be feeding a family. So it doesn't have to put you in prison if you have one identity and only one identity and it's controlled by the government. The government will be totalitarian, right?
So
this is why we need it.
It's quite difficult to comment about it. How, because government can be good or bad. You cannot say everybody is bad.
Yes. No, but would you trust in 10 years time that you have a perfect government that won't be able to switch off?
There is nobody perfect.
I know.
Yeah. So no, I'm saying it's very difficult to comment if you are being negative. Like everything is being negative. You cannot create an identity. I can create 100 identities. So it's very contradictory statement.
Sorry, Kai had his hand up.
So I'm not sure if this is workable because I'm not a developer or something. But what I want from SSI is something like why I care is like currently I have a problem is there's a lot of website when I well, they have newsletter, right? But when I want to unsubscribe, instead of directly unsubscribe from my email, I need to go to their website again, and then it's actually they controlling my website. And even I unsubscribe them, they still have my email address with them. So I'm not sure if it's able to create something like, well, how when it's like a one-click login. Every time you go to the website, you want to link something, but instead of getting your email address directly, so this SSI thing actually gives you just like a public key linked to my private key. It's like a multi-sig one whatever you want to do it. So every time when you don't want the thing to have your data anymore, so you just need one click at the email address, and then this public key that they have is not workable anymore. So that's what I want.
I would love, that, say for example, my email address to have an SSI, and with the transparency that it has, I'll be able to see who has access to what's that, and I can switch it off myself. Because, like for example, YouTube, right? When you watch an advertisement, it says you're allowed to skip ad or repetitive right now. It doesn't work! Okay, I keep it info. I don't want to see this ad again. I still see it. It's like crazy. Cannot trust them.
Just buy it.
Buy.
Then it won't bug you anymore.
It doesn't work. Say that, stop seeing this ad. That function doesn't work.
But we cannot expect some identity to be on like your email and then using the Gmail to provide you some kind of other identity. It has to be on blockchain, every other identity. If you want to be safe, right?
Yes. Agree. Yeah. It has to be.
You cannot use your Gmail.
No.
To provide the identity to blockchain. Yeah. So everything has to be on blockchain. Then only nobody can read anybody's data, and then it will be useful.
But I think in the end, it's got to be a new thing, because how can you tell Google to actually give up their control over your thing?
It's not. It's just like they are big. You need to be bigger, so that everybody accept you are the boss.
Actually, I see this we have to be smaller in the sense that Google doesn't bother about you.
Yeah,
The only reason why
you are generating your own email address, your own domain. It's all similar to generating your own public key, private key pair. Generate it, and you don't need anyone to see. It's just that the tools are not out there easily.
I like what Andreas Antonopoulos said. The only reason why Bitcoin is where it is today is because if nobody paid attention to it, for 4 years, 5 years, give it attention serious. That's the reason why it is where it is today. So I agree with what Ray says about that. It has to start small.
Alright, and on that note, I'm going to move on to the third section because we only have 20 minutes left, and I do want to cover at least a bit on each. So this one is on projects who are working on SSI. So if anybody knows any of these projects, Johnson has his hand up.
I got a few. One of it is Hyperledger Inda.
Sorry, how?
Inda.
INDA?
INDA, I think. The other one is Blockstack. Blockstack is very interesting. Blockstack, basically you own your own data, and then you can use the website that support Blockstack as a front end. So you provide your own data, and then you can choose any front end that you want. So I got a friend that worked on a framework using Blockstack. It's called LL Hunt. It's basically a video hunting website. If you saw a YouTube video, it's very funny, you share with everyone. And then it's using this Blockstack technology to power the site.
Okay. And Pisut, you had a hand up?
Yeah. His name is Diode.
Sorry?
Diode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the Taiwan one.
Yeah, they're based from Taiwan. And the one interesting is that one of them is the organizers of the Ethereum Type Days. Maybe you.
Yep.
And I don't 100% understand about the projects, but more like for very short, like on the decentralized identities, like on the blockchain, like for Ethereum, for example, if you want to create the decentralized identities on specific blockchain, you need to set up the node, right? And it need to take many hours for your node to be synced with the blockchain network to create just the one decentralized identity. But with the Diode, they create another protocol that allow you to create the decentralized identities quite shorter than create the decentralized identity on Ethereum. It's
Okay.
more technical stuff, like not have a business. You may have the business, which is more like we focus on the technical term on how to utilize the digital identity, the way you access the blockchain network.
Okay.
Sorry. Using Ethereum, we can create decentralized identity.
You can create it decentralized entities, but if you make it from scratch, you need to set up your full node, and you need to allow your full node to be synced with the network, which will take a lot of time.
So it will create a decentralized identity when you install a node.
Identities on their own blockchain network and allow you to generate the decentralized identities maybe 100 times or 1,000 times faster than creating decentralized identities on the Ethereum blockchain. But they focus on the IoT device as well.
So you create the identities for the IoT device with this diagram?
Yes, they make the hardware for creating the identity. More like if you make the hardware to create the identity, right? And if you use the Ethereum, and if you run it from scratch, the IoT device need to sync with the network. Need to take a lot of time for your IoT device to be synced with the network. But with Dialog, they make like a special device to sync with the network faster, way more faster.
That's one I found, and which is by Microsoft. I guess probably you guys have heard it. Microsoft ION. Yeah, this is a decentralized identity management using the Bitcoin blockchain as well. It's building on Bitcoin. Second layer is a layer 2 solution. So it's public, permissionless, decentralized. It's actually an identity management systems. I think you guys should look it up.
It's
Yeah.
called INDY.
There are a few more like ENS, Ethereum Name Services. I think you guys know it. So it's not really close to SSI, but more towards like link your Ethereum address with domain name.
So like Namecoin.
Yeah.
Namecoin.
No, like Namecoin. ENS is very interesting because a lot of new projects are using it. So when you go to any wallet app and you don't need to remember your public key, all you need to do is just type your ENS ID, and then it allows you to create like a subdomain from a main domain. Let's say I own a site called johnson.com. I can own another one is a subdomain like im.johnson.com and then admin.johnson.com, something like that.
And on that note, I own ethkl.eth. If anybody wants a subdomain, let me know. It's not very simple to do for me right now, but I can do it for you at some point. It'll be free.
We have a guy on our side, CoinGecko, how to start ENS. Be interested.
Cool.
You know what's Namecoin, right?
Yeah, I know. It was a
We
very...
were trying to create a DNS-like system on the blockchain.
Yeah.
Using the blockchain, but I don't know what happened with it. Maybe it was just not popular or too complicated.
On ENS, Johnson, maybe you can correct me. My understanding is that if you use the ENS interface, their website, you will rent a name for like it's up to 5 years. So there is a risk, from my understanding, that if you forget or someone outbids you later, then they basically own your name. So you can do a lot of things. You do, people know who you are, they want to send money to you, and then 5 years later someone outbids you for that domain name, and then when people want to like send donations or whatever, it goes to that address and not to you. I'm not sure if there's any solution that they've worked on to kind of like counter that, but that's one issue that
It's like our website, like google.com.
Yeah.
You need to always renew to the ICANN organizations.
Yeah.
All those things. Yeah, because their concepts are built upon how the traditional.com, the DNS, or the organizations like ICANN, they're building based on their concepts. So you need to Yeah, it's on your own, kind of. Always remember.
Yeah, so if people are interested in ENS, make sure you double check, you understand that there is a risk that that name doesn't belong to you anymore, which is the exact problem that we highlighted at the beginning lah, of like people stealing your identity. And in this case, it's worse because like that's the identity that people directly send money to. So yeah.
And just want to add something about ENS. The problem with ENS, especially the subdomains, it depends on the owner of the root domain. If they are not renewing next year, you lose your subdomain.
Yeah.
Right?
As is what's going on with ETHKL right now. So yeah, you guys have to trust that I'm not gonna change the address to my own. But there's an article someone wrote, I can't remember who, I think it's the ETHUB guy, that the owner can do a change such that once that change is done, any subdomain that's been created, the owner can't take it back anymore.
By default, it belongs to
Yes, but by default, it belongs to the owner and they can do whatever they want with it. So it's an even worse level of trust that you have than right now. I have a couple others. So the Zug sort of like district in Switzerland are experimenting with using a self-sovereign identity or some sort of decentralized identity for their residents. Also, Catalonia, which is, if people who may not know, they are in Spain, but according to them, they're their own country. And so they're experimenting with having a decentralized identity as well. And so you can kind of see in that example, at least, where the people who might be interested to do this are the like governments of states that are not necessarily recognized internationally, and because they don't necessarily have the power to create their own like passports or government IDs, if there is a decentralized ID for their citizens, that actually helps them to have more power as a government as well.
They're using their own public network? Or?
I don't know that much about it. I can send a link, share a link later. I've read it, but I can't remember right now. But the idea is it's a public, it's done on a public blockchain. One of the projects that are actively working on identities as well is called IDEN3, so IDEN3. And I think a lot of their main developers are also Catalans. One of them is a very popular developer called, I can't remember his name now, but he did ERC 777. Jordi Bellina, yes. So he's one of the developers there. And my personal understanding is there is obviously a personal reason as well for them wanting to do that. They actually, at DEF CON last year, they actually did a cool game where you create an identity and then you can kind of like pair with other people. So your phone, you can pair with other phones, and then you play this game of like if you sort of trust each other, then you get a certain reward. If you like backstab someone and they trust you, you get an even bigger reward. If you both backstab each other, then you get a penalty or something like that lah. And they work with I think it's Etfinex, that they get a real token out of it, the Nectar token. So that was a sort of like a real life game on identities.
It's like a picture of the one used to be, right, the cats one.
CryptoKitties. The CryptoKitties.
Mixed together, you create something new.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't necessarily think so, as there's no NFT involved at least. But yeah, it's just a sort of like experiment on like not real identities lah. There's another project called Bright ID. I don't know exactly what they do, but my understanding is they're trying to build sort of like identities on a blockchain. And another one is called Trust Lines, which is very cool. They created their own sort of like token, and the way you get it is they seed it. So how I got it was I responded to a Twitter post that they did, and as long as they can see that you are a real Twitter account and has an address that belongs to you, they give you an initial amount. So it's like a money that is tied to an identity, and it's how it works is like it's also on this attestation by friends. So like there are, when a friend sort of like says that this is you, then they have like a certain amount of cash that they can transfer, and then you can then transfer that cash to someone else who has an attestation of like this person is real.
That person need to be on that.
Yeah. So it's kind of like if you know sort of like local currency type of things like kutu kind of stuff. What's the English word for it? Forget already. But like kutu lah, sort of currencies that you have within local communities. And it's relying on the sort of like social. I know this person, that person knows someone kind of element. I'm probably I'm not explaining it in the best way, but yeah, you can check it out later as well.
There is one project. IRMA, IRMA, based on Netherlands, NGO there. They already, I think, they already using it, and they work together with the government. So basically, the apps, they put all the information inside the apps, the personal details, and then that information is already verified by the government. So anyway, if you go to like, if you want to register somewhere in the bank or I don't know, you can just like QR scan something like that. So it's something like attribute-based credential. You can just give your credential. This is you. Technically using that SSI. And then there is another one I heard, Sovereign.
Yes.
Yeah, Sovereign.
About that. Yep.
But I'm not sure details about that. Maybe you can explain later. But
What was that?
I know. I think that is more on enterprise, right? So.
Yeah. From what I understand, Sovereign has an incubator. So they sort of fund projects that are working on identity. Yeah. And it's a foundation, I think. It's not a company necessarily. So I didn't heed my own words about making sure we go on time. So we have 5 minutes. Very quickly, if anybody knows any concerns or issues around sort of SSI, like what problems that can come up with when you do SSI, and this is actually what the main thing that I wanted to cover was if anybody knows how potentially we as a community can implement something like this in Malaysia and who can or should be involved. So yeah, 5 minutes to cover these two sections.
I think we have covered about issues.
Quick recap.
One of the issues is too difficult to create. It's just like blockchain. It's too difficult for users to create and maintain their own identities.
Okay.
Using that, and if there's no one to fall back to, there's no support. Basically.
It's not intuitive. I mean, like, it's really good that we have this thing. I think the first half an hour is still blurred, then after that slowly easy. It's not intuitive. Okay, so no, just even trying to grasp, because the first thing that we were talking about, remember when we talked about sovereign identity, we thought that sovereign identity means I will have one identity and then once that one identity goes on, and then that kind of thing. People have different interpretations. It's not easy to understand.
Okay. Okay.
And what is the first step? Usually, what is the first step to actually start, the SSI?
All right, which drives us to the next one. Maybe we can come up with a step for that in Malaysia. Anybody have any ideas?
I would like to support the SSI movement. I mean, Bitcoin Malaysia is doing a lot of events, right? One of the things that I really would like to see is that, because when you come for the event, you have to register, and I would love to see that you don't need to sign in, or more like the sign-in process is like using an SSI to basically sign in and then, hey bro, thanks for coming, then there's proof that you've attended and you're a supporter and then you've done, this kind of thing. I would like to do that.
Okay.
Do not know how, okay, we'll be happy to go and, receive suggestions, okay, how I can do that.
Also can be used for receiving donations.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I would say these two items don't necessarily need SSI. On the first one, there is a kickback, which is a sort of a project on Ethereum where you basically, the idea is for you to attend the meetup, you have to deposit some ether, and then if you don't come, basically that ether gets taken from you and is given to everybody else who attended. So it's kind of a way to like incentivize people to come and do that. Yeah, and it's also UX is also a problem. There is also a proof of attendance protocol, which at DevCon they were giving out those stickers. They actually are looking to sponsor like free NFT of attendance for any meetups. And they actually offered to do that for this meetup, especially it was around SSI, but we haven't been able to figure out how to get it up and done. Hopefully next month's meetup, if you guys come, we can give you a badge that has an NFT tied to it that you can then show off on your like Ethereum wallets and so on. And Pisu, yeah, I can share with you later also on that. Cool, it's a cool idea.
It's not only that, you know, okay, it is also as an event organizer, okay, when people come for the events, all right, I need to make sure that the people who are looking forward towards hearing from us and say I need to reply with some answers, okay, that I must make sure that I do keep them informed. So I need to manage their database and all that. But then half the time I'm like, I didn't remember, okay, this guy he has attended our events before, or this guy is new, I need to spend more time with him, right? And then I need to manage their mobile numbers and email addresses. And then sometimes when I get sponsors, okay, my sponsors will also ask a report for me, and then I always have this conflict. Okay, do I share the attendee? I don't want to share the attendee. I want to report. So how do I do that? So I think that what we discussed today in terms of SSI, I'm able to prove to my sponsors that X amount of people did attend, okay, and it is of this demographic, you know, that kind of thing, without actually giving away the personal data.
Okay. Cool. So we're at 9.
I'd like to add
Pick one
point, because this all involves blockchain, and everything written on blockchain requires some cost also. So like you creating an event costs money, somebody coming involves money, then you attending costs money. I don't know how much money to invest to solve this particular problem. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, so a counterpoint I have for that is that money is a social fiction, right? Like we come up with what money is.
If it's tied to money, then it's bad. But if it's just it's a free event where you just register, you get certain tokens, then you can attend certain events. Okay, if you go, you get certain token back, and then you can reuse. Something.
Okay, sorry, my battery died. I thought it was gonna last a bit longer. But anyway, on that, the idea is if you have like cryptocurrencies that are not tied to any like government fiat money, there is no sort of like necessarily harm in you creating and spending these currencies by sort of attending events or organizing events. And in the end, you know, as someone who does meetups like for free without getting paid, like, you know, there is an element of it takes time, it takes effort to do it. So if you can get paid for it in some way, and people who are attending it pays it, it's a form of incentivization for people to also do events, because you know it takes their effort as well. So I think spending money, I think if we kind of like shift the framework, our mindset into like it's not money in the sense of like ringgit each time, but it can be like small amounts of a currency that we share as our own small community. And yeah, it's a way to like give some sort of value to the person who is organizing. I think it's not necessarily a problem. I think that's
Can I ask what you're basically trying to say is that for the last question, how to implement in Malaysia, you are trying to say that it costs money to implement things in Malaysia?
No, I'm saying it's a very simple concept. Events and attendance and all. Because blockchain is basically for transaction, very important data. Because they say, right, it's very important. Whatever you write it should be very important regarding, but if you're using blockchain as a platform for a simple event which which can be done by cheaper technologies. Okay, so it's not so cost effective in terms of you building the system and using the system, which will end up taking more power, more electricity you need to generate. Right, I'm just saying that's
okay.
the point.
Well, my answer to that would be this. Okay, right now, my idea is this in terms of supporting this movement. Okay, is that to run this, continue running Bitcoin Malaysia events, I'm looking for sponsors, right? Okay, if I can raise 2 co-sponsors for, I will basically have enough to cover costs for the entire year. And then if I get more sponsors like Silver, I will have resources to basically invest in, to support the SSI. Like get some people to work on some applications, experiment, user experience, things like that. So that's how I would help the SSI movement.
No, help.
Yeah, so I think on that point, if you want to go through it, we can cover it afterwards during post meetup, because I think it goes into the whole cost of the Bitcoin protocol and stuff like that, and you can argue the cash system involves even more higher costs, and we're going to go down some other hole. We're going to get a couple last comments, and then I think I want to wrap it up.
So then I think the community, I think we can start something because we cannot wait. Yes. So
Sounds like a scam. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, there is a lot of open source DID, decentralized ID software for information. And then like how to put ID inside that, then let everyone use it. And then like for example the Grab, then we can just use selfie, we can like instead of because that is only for that apps, right? So we just have one app only for identity. So we store everything inside our own phone. So if anything require registration, so everything is inside the phone. And then maybe if we have a lot of people using it, then we can start approach government to maybe they can verify that this is the because we already have a large database.
Okay. Last comment.
That's my suggestion. I think Irma does not have anything to do with blockchain, but my suggestion would be we actually implement that because that goes to the principles of attribute-based consent. So, for example, in the case where you want to get your report, right, I don't want to give my name or whatever, but give you my attribute that I actually attend to it. And it's open source. They have a nice mobile app with it. I think for at least for starting out as stuff, the guy is like a non-profit. They are working to university, and they have a use case where they actually use it in Netherlands. So it's being done. So for practical use kind of stuff, my suggestion would be to use that.
Cool.
Check that out.
Okay, cool. So just wrapping it up, there is an organization here in Malaysia that is working on it. I mean, it's an international organization, but we're based in Malaysia. It's called the IO Foundation. They've actually been actively working on this idea of decentralized or self-sovereign identities. So if you want, I or a couple of us can link you up with them. The sort of the head is actually in our Telegram group. It's called Jean. And they are doing an event in end of June with the Malaysian government. The details are not out there necessarily yet, but if you guys are interested, then make sure keep an eye out for the event. I'll share it when I have the details in the Telegram group. And if you also want to reach out to this organization directly, it's called the IO Foundation. You can either sort of Google them and reach out, or again in the Telegram group, just ping and then we can kind of link you up. So next step, does anybody know what kind of or maybe we can discuss this afterwards, unofficially, if there's any projects that we want to do as a community that might sound a bit ambitious for me personally, but or if there's any other sort of further readings or further discussions that we want to do related on the topic, Let's discuss that afterwards. And very importantly for me, if you guys have any feedback, either on the topic itself or how we've done this, how we can do it better, please do give it to me. I don't have a way for you to give it to me anonymously right now, but just I don't really mind. You can say anything, but it's just in the spirit of how we can improve it. So next time, it can always be done better. And if there's anybody who has any final comments, free to share. Otherwise, I don't want to keep people longer than they should be.
No, whether is this? Can you extend this online so that people doesn't really have to be here?
So we this gear here is actually streaming the video to YouTube live. Unfortunately, my computer's dead, so I think it's stopped now.
Just to add something, the problem is we only have one full setup.
I see.
So usually we have two parallel
Sessions.
We have one here in pantry, another one inside the room. So we can only use it at one venue.
Unless there's a sponsor.
Unless we have if you would like to sponsor, please.
Yeah. But yeah, so if in future any one of you who want to join any of our sessions and you can't make it, you go to the Telegram group. We'll put in the link for the live stream, and then you can at least watch it, and then you can comment on the Telegram group, and we'll make sure to include your comments as well. Yeah. And if anybody has any other ideas on how we can improve that too, that's amazing. Cool. So yeah, if there's nothing else, let's wrap up the official discussion. You can feel free to hang out until 10 p.m. Because also can. So officially in the meetup is until 10 p.m. here. There's a Ali Maju behind there. So anybody who wants to just hang out and hang out at the Mama and talk about either this topic or anything else, feel free to do it. But yeah, I will officially end this official part of the meetup. Feel free to finish any pizza that we might have left. And really, yeah, okay. Then yeah, I think if you guys can help rearrange the tables.